Hello and welcome to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audiofiction. This is the series The Truth Behind the Lies, written by Jheqia, narrated by Dawn, myself, hello, and this is for Jheqia's Wednesday, and now we are on part 4, so make sure you go and send Jheqia some love. All her information is down below. Send me some love by smashing that like button, comment down below what you think of it and what will happen next, and make sure you subscribe, because if you got to part 4 and you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Because there is so many other series and one-shots and treats to come, and I hope you enjoy. Part 4. Marinette had to be dreaming. This clearly had to be a dream, because she couldn't remember being this happy before in real life. She had vivid daydreams about Adrien in the past, but this one took the cake. Adrien was treating her, well, like a girlfriend, like he was in love with her. He had bought her flowers with a meaning in a tiny silver vase to pin on her jacket that had belonged to his mother. He had told Alia and Nino that he didn't have many things he got to choose in his life, and that he chose her, Marinette. She must have been dreaming throughout classes, because when they stopped for lunch break and Adrien had to go home, he bid her a sweet goodbye and kissed her on the forehead before leaving, in front of the entire class. She just stood there, gazing after him in a rosy cloud, when the girls' squad swept her up and took her to the girls' room, all talking at once. "Oh, Marinette, we're so happy for you," Mylene exclaimed. "So, did his old man finally get Golden Boy's contact, or did you just lose it and knock him over the head with your mannequin?" "Girl, if you don't tell me how this happened in the next 2 seconds, I'm going to explode." "You two look so perfect together." "Really cool," Jheqia murmured, barely loud enough for them to hear. Marinette just shrugged and blushed, setting them all off again. It felt good for them to be together once more, instead of them hanging around Lila so much. Then suddenly Rose's eyes widened, and she looked ready to cry. "But Lila said that she and Adrien were dating in secret to avoid his father and fans. This is gonna break her heart. They were so in love." "Oh, please, anyone can see he doesn't know how to get rid of her," Alex scoffed. "I kind of doubt it was even more than a few dates. Not that he acts around her. Sorry, Marinette, it's just like you're playing second fiddle to Lila or anything." "Hey, girls," Marinette said, but they all ignored her. "But you haven't heard Lila go on about all the things Adrien does for her," Mylene said, looking concerned. "Flowers, chocolates, romantic dinners on the Eiffel Tower at sunset. Lila wouldn't make that up. She doesn't need to lie about something like that. Not that you aren't great, Marinette, and we're glad you're so happy, but is it possible Adrien is stringing you both along?" "Pfft. Have you even met Sunshine? He is too innocent to pull something like that, and we all know how he feels about Marinette," Alia argued. "Besides, when would boy have time for one girlfriend, let alone 2? "Girls!" Marinette yelled, her voice echoing off the tiled walls of the bathroom, making them wince. "Adrien was never dating Lila." But Lila wouldn't lie to us. They always look so sweet together in their photos," Rose said, looking distressed, Jheqia putting an arm around her best friend in comfort. Mylene looked confused. "But what about the bracelet? We all saw it, and Lila said—" "Girls!" Alia called, waving her hands for silence. "It could mean anything. The important thing would be to ask how Marinette and Adrien started dating in the first place." She shot a calculating look at her friend. All their eyes focused on her, including several other girls that were in the bathroom. "Well," she whispered, "Adrien asked me out one day at my house. He isn't big on doing stuff out in public, what with his fans mobbing him and all, but we had a nice quiet date. He's been pretty busy lately with the fashion expo last week, but so we haven't had much time to spend together. All of that was strictly true, but it made Marinette feel guilty for lying to her friends, leaving her stomach squirmy and unpleasant. Her friends all exchanged grim looks and Rose started sniffling. "What?" she asked, each girl looking in turn. "Why are you all looking like that?" Alia put a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Sorry, girl, but it's just... Lila told us the same thing." "So what?" she said, her anger rising now. "Adrien says he was never dating Lila, and I believe him." "Marinette, is it possible that you are blinded to any inconsistencies in Adrien's behavior by how much you love him?" Mylene offered tentatively. "You have been in love with him for a while, and..." "That has nothing to do with it," Marinette yelled, tears welling up in her eyes. How could her friends think so badly about Adrien? "Well, I wouldn't blame you if you snatched him away from her," Alex commented dryly. "Bold move, Marinette. Respect." "Snatched him away? You know how I've been around him. Could you honestly think I could have mustered the courage to ask him out, even if I could speak a full sentence straight in front of him?" "You were talking fine around him this morning," Alia pointed out, looking at her sternly over her glasses. "Look at this then, if you don't believe me." She grabbed the front of her jacket, holding the silver nosegays with its white and yellow flowers out for all to see. "Adrien gave me this morning. He said it was his mother's. That proves he wouldn't be dating Lila, right? Adrien wouldn't date one girl, only to turn around and ask another out, let alone give her an heirloom that he got from his mother." Her friends exchanged nervous looks once more. "Marinette," Alia said, her eyes dark and confused. "Lila bracelet, the one Mylene mentioned? She said Adrien had given it to her too, and it's engraved with the letters EA." Adrien could feel the change in the atmosphere when he got back from lunch. It was decidedly frosty and charged with an undercurrent of animosity. When he walked into the classroom, the eyes of all his friends snapped onto him, and the look the girls were casting his way was sharp as daggers. And Marinette was not sitting with Alia. Instead, she was sitting in Nino's seat, and his best friend was sitting with his girlfriend, exchanging dark looks. Sliding over to Marinette, he sat down next to her on the wide bench. He slid his arm around her shoulder and leaned in to whisper, "What happened? Why is everyone staring at me like that?" He was startled when she leaned her head on his shoulder and let out a low sigh. "Marinette? I don't know if this will work," she whispered, so Alia and Nino couldn't hear them. "Lila has a bracelet that she told everyone you gave her, and that it belonged to your mother. It even has the initials EA on it. Now everyone thinks that you're two-timing Lila and taking advantage of me, or that I'm a poacher who stole you from her." She let out a soft sigh, and he felt her tears soak into his overshirt. He saw her hand laying limply on her lap, and he wove his fingers through hers, giving a comforting squeeze. He hated seeing her so defeated. Think of this as the opening moves into a new video game. We're exploring and finding the weaknesses of our opponent. We have not yet fought. He gave her hand another soft squeeze and placed his head against hers. "Don't worry, Marinette. We're not beaten yet." "Thank you," she murmured, tracing random patterns across his knuckles with her thumb. "And I'm sorry I dragged you into this." He nudged her gently on the shoulder. "You didn't drag. I jumped, remember?" She gave a little squeak that sounded like cross between a hiccup and a laugh. He smiled. Now you just keep being the amazing girlfriend you are, and we'll see if Kagami will join us after fencing, okay? Marinette looked up at him sideways through her lashes, and his heart somersaulted in his chest. Her eyes were smiling up at him, full of such trust that it emboldened him and frightened him at the same time. The fact that Lila had embellished her lies with physical evidence made him feel slightly sick, as if she had anticipated what they would do. Adrien stiffened his resolve. He wouldn't fail Marinette no matter what. He never wanted to see those eyes full of tears again. The rest of the day dragged on. He and Marinette didn't share every lesson, but went out of his way to walk her to each class so that no one would bother her. It boosted his spirits to see Marinette brighten at his subtle attentions, and when he picked her up at the art room door on his way to fencing, the smile on her face was like sunshine bursting through a storm. "So, you've been to plenty of my tournaments and things. Is there anything you think you might need to know?" he murmured in her ear as they walked down the stairs. "I'm allowed to cheer after the bout is over, right?" she asked, peering up at him through her lashes. He chuckled. "Yeah, I can see you as one of those cheerleaders from the American Teen Romance, cheering and shaking those fluffy, sparkly things for your basketball hero boyfriend." She giggled and blushed a deep pink, making her eyes sparkle as she nudged him with her shoulder. "Well, basketball is Thursday. Besides, aren't those characters supposed to be the prettiest girl in the school? Doesn't sound like me. Plus, they're always bullies to the protagonist." He stopped dead in his tracks, staring at her in astonishment. "Marinette, what are you talking about? I wasn't pretending earlier when I told Alia and Nino you were the prettiest girl in the school. And just the way things have gone today between us, I have 100 times more chemistry with you than I have with any of the other female models I've worked with. I wasn't kidding about talking to my father about you working with me. That is, if you want to." Her jaw dropped open and swayed on the spot. "Besides," he said, taking a step forward to take her hand in his, "you're the kindest, sweetest person I've ever met, Marinette. I'm always proud to have you cheering me on." She stared at him, her eyes wide and wet as if she was about to cry. Then she shook her head as if to clear it. "Pom-poms!" she squeaked out, cheeks burning once more. He blinked in confusion. "Pom-poms?" "The fluffy, sparkly things. They're called pom-poms." She sounded breathless and nervous once more. "Oh!" He rubbed the back of his neck with his free hand as they started walking towards the locker room once more. Had he said the wrong thing, or was she just so worn out and lonely due to Lila's threats that she was doubting herself constantly? He definitely knew how that felt. How did you know I have basketball practice on Thursday?" "Adrien, we've been friends for almost 2 years. I made a point to learn your schedule." She stiffened for some reason, and her smile became suddenly strained. "I mean, your regular schedule. I mean, I can't know everything after all. And your father always seems to be scheduling stuff at the weirdest times, but stuff like fencing and basketball and other things after school you've mentioned are just things that I wouldn't know, and in case we wanted to hang out or something." Her words were rushed, and her free hand waved about in the air in front of them nervously. I know how disappointed you get when Nino asks and you can't go." He chuckled. Not only had Marinette defended him against Lila, but she worried about him, wanted him to have his freedom, and learned his schedule. He couldn't help but blush a bit and rub the back of his neck again. Well, today is an inter-school tournament, so not that big of a deal, just practice mainly." "But what kind of girlfriend would I be if I didn't cheer on my boyfriend? She asked, blushing like a sunrise. And cheer Marinette did. After every bout, she would stand up and wave her hands in the air, calling out how well he'd done. It got to the point where he started stretching himself, trying for the more dramatic attacks just to impress her. He ended up losing the last bout with Kagami because his footing was off after failing to recover from elaborate parade and repose. She ducked in front of his guard and swiped at his torso a second before his saber touched her shoulder. He saluted his opponent smartly and took off his helmet. "Great work, Kagami. That was close." She returned the salute and raised her mask to look at him better. "You seem more invigorated today than you have of late," she said with a half smile, her eyes drifting to where Marinette sat in the bleachers, waving and cheering for them both. "Or is it just that you realize your true target at last?" He blushed and ran his hand through his sweaty hair. No, not at all. It's just... Oh, come on, Kagami," he groaned, smearing his hand down his face to hide his blushes. She sighed and shook her head. "He who hesitates loses more than just the battle, Adrien." "It's not like that," he said seriously. "Look, do you have a few minutes after we get cleaned up? Marinette and I could use your help with something." She looked at him steadily for a minute, then glanced over at Marinette, who was chatting amicably with Master Darancourt. "I should be able to stay for a few minutes. What is wrong, Adrien? I have never seen you this worried." He took her by the arm and led her towards the locker rooms. "I want you to wait until Marinette can join us, but we are at war, Kagami. A war against lies, and we need your help." Thank you for listening to part 4 of The Truth Behind the Lies. I hope you are enjoying it so far. Oh, now they're at war. What's going to happen next? Make sure you put down your comments down below. Make sure you smash that like button and go and send Jheqia some love for writing it. Send me some love. And make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on future parts of this series and other series to come, because my schedule is just all over the place at the moment. I have no idea what's happening in March. It's just gone, yeah, it's gone crazy. So yeah, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button so you do not miss out on any other stories and one-shots and series and stuff like that to come. And I hope you are good, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.